Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is August 11th, 2025, and we have a very special guest here for tonight. First of all, I'm your regular host here, Chad Sherwood. We got David Griggs to one side of me up top here,
Woohoo.
Rocco Miller from Bragtier.org below, Zach Singer. None of them are our special guest. Our special guest is the other box there, head coach of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, going into his 42nd year there. Coach Greg Kampe, the longest tenured coach in Division One, I believe 715 career wins, and just honestly one of our favorite coaches here at Hoops HD. And man who's been Hoops HD wasn't even a dream yet when this man started coaching at Oakland. Sorry, Coach, I'm not trying to date you here, but first of all, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I'm probably combined all your ages. I'm probably older than you guys. So
Yeah.
I'm used to it, man. Come on at me. Let's go.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the things is we have a weekly podcast during the season that we call Under the Radar. Like, we hate the term mid-major. I mean, to me, Clemson and, Texas Tech, people in the middle of major conferences should be mid-majors. So we kind of invented the under the radar term. But as he said, you've had been there for a while. A long stint as a D2 coach. You went through the transition, something that not many coaches and programs have the experience of doing. And then you kind of became one of the top level programs. I know it's the Summit League now. I think it was the MidCon at the time. You went through conference changes, so you've done a lot. Can you kind of comment on how the game has changed as you've been in it, and has that kind of changed your perspective of what may work and what you need to do to build success now at that level that might be different from 10, 15 years ago?
Well, first, let me say those are the best eyes of any question I've ever been asked to me. I mean, the red
Yeah.
mouth and eyes. That's I'm just stunned by all that. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, it's even though I've been at Oakland for 42 years, Oakland has changed, and the the job has changed. It's like I've gone to different jobs. It's just I didn't have to move because we were Division two when I got here. They'd never had a winning season in the history of their league. Um, then we got to a Sweet 16, and then I was had a team that was poised to win a national championship, and our administration decided to go Division one. I had some kids leave. I had, we redshirted everybody. We went Division one. We got in at that time the Mid-Continent Conference. That conference, we won it our first year in Division one, which to me, if you look back through when it's time to go back and look at that, the how Oakland has morphed to from where they were to where they are, I think that was one of the greatest accomplishments ever to your first year in Division one to win a conference championship. We weren't even eligible to go to the conference tournament, so they didn't let us, or we weren't eligible to go to the NCAA tournament, so they wouldn't let us play in the conference tournament. And then that league changed. Oral Roberts was like, and Valpo were the best teams in it. Valpo moved on, and then we became pretty dominant in it. And then North Dakota State and South Dakota State came into it, and that the whole league shifted out west. I mean, we were one of the first schools ever to at our level to charter. We used to spend $200,000 a year just chartering to Omaha and to Fargo and all those places because that conference changed. And then we had a run which to this day I'm really proud of. We had a run over a 53 game period in that league. We went 50-3, including the tournament and that, which was just, I mean, we'll never do anything like that again. But Keith Benson and Reggie Hamilton and Travis Bate. I mean, I just had some great players.
Yeah.
Derek Nelson. But anyways, so then we moved to the Horizon League. And at that time, Butler had gone to the Final Four in the Horizon League twice. They had multiple teams in the NCAA tournament a couple times. That it was, a league on the rise, but Butler left, and Valpo had left us and gone to that league. So to follow Valpo there, because Valpo was kind of an arch rival for us. So it's just this job has just changed and changed and changed over time. And the leagues, obviously, that was before the leagues changing started. Now with all the leagues changing, who knows what league we're going to be in or who's going to be in our league next year or whatever. Now it's just get ready for this season. We don't even know who our players are going to be next year. So,
Yeah.
just get ready for it and not worry about change.
Yeah, thanks. About that winning, there's only one other team that I can think of that did that. It was Birmingham Southern. Sadly, that school doesn't exist anymore. They were the first place team in the Big South as a transitional team. We have a historian. He's not with us, but Oakland and I think those, just to emphasize what an accomplishment that was. It's not done. Somebody wins it all every year, but only twice has that ever happened. Was there anybody else that won it? Grand Canyon never did.
No.
I think North Dakota State, their first year they were eligible for the tournament.
They got in,
They
yeah,
got in,
yeah,
but they didn't. But they were out. You're in. It's a 3 or 4 year transition, depending on
yeah.
when you made the transition. And I don't think just that those two schools, us and the Birmingham school, are the only two that ever did it.
Well,
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah,
and coach, it's just amazing to go from that being a D2 school with taking over a D2 school that never had a winning season all the way to the point where 2 seasons ago you're the guy that ended Coach Cal's career at Kentucky by beating him in the NCAA tournament. How about that game when you beat them in the NCAA tournament?
Well, it's that game's a double-edged sword, and if you've got time, I can tell the story. Cal and I are
yeah.
really close friends,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we beat Milwaukee, and we went to 3 NCAA tournaments in 5 years, and we thought, oh, this is going to be easy, right? And then reality set in on how hard it is to win a conference tournament, and we'd gone 10 or 11 years without doing it, and I probably had 3 great teams, not good teams, great teams. They got beaten in our conference tournament that should have gone to an NCAA tournament, and so we beat Milwaukee, and the game was on at 7, so it had to end at 9 o'clock. That's usually a 2 hour game's a TV window, right? And I'm on my way to the press conference. I look at my phone and I have 583 messages, and the first one is from Cal. And I actually opened it, and it was at 9:01. So it must, as soon as the game ended, he sent congratulations. That's awesome. And before I went in the press room, I texted him back. Yeah, we'll probably get you guys. Later that night, he said, no, that ain't happening. So I get out of the press conference. Now I've got like 1,000 text messages. And, I actually called him and we had a great conversation. And then on Sunday at Selection Sunday, sure enough, we get Kentucky. And as soon as it happened, I texted him. He goes, I'm going. Yeah, he goes, I'm going into a media thing right now. I said, so am I. And he called me. He just said, let's just do this. Let's just tell the media how great of people each of us are. And then I'll see you after the game. We weren't going to talk before it, right? And, he went and said great things about me. I said great things about him in Kentucky because I believe it and mean it. And so the game ends, and you guys have followed or know me. I've been, talked to me before and everything. I'm a guy that can talk, right? It's very seldom do I have nothing to say. And then I go to shake his hand, and the first, I have to reach way up because the only guy I look eye to eye with when I shake hands is Izzo. Everybody else I have to look up to, right? I could post Izzo up. So I look up at him, and I didn't know what to say because I knew the shitstorm that was coming for him. I mean, I knew what I knew. And when I watched the game later on the replay of TV, when the game ended, they showed him walking off the floor. They showed enough of us, but they didn't, they didn't show our fans. They didn't show our guys celebrating. They showed him walking off the floor, and then they went to showing. So I knew what he was going through, and I didn't know what to say. And I to this moment, I can't remember what he said to me. So I go into the press room afterwards, and I'm done, and I'm walking out because the winning team went first, and I'm walking out, and there he is standing, and he goes like this, and I walk away from all the media, and he's standing in the corner, and there people are just waiting to kill him, and I walk up to him, I said, Cal, man, I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. He goes, don't worry about it. I said, you guys were the better team. You deserve to win, and go enjoy it. Don't let this crap bother you. Don't worry about me. Go enjoy it. That's the type of person he is. And he was walking into probably the toughest moment of his coaching career. And that's how he handled his friendship with me. So he'll always be a close friend of mine. I respect him immensely, and I hate hearing when people say I what you said about ending his career at Kentucky. I get that, obviously I speak a lot, and so when they introduce me, a lot of times they say that, and I cringe at it because he's my friend and everything. But I will say this: when he got the Arkansas job and he got a $2 million a year raise, I mean, he sent me a text and thanked me. I said, hey, what about 5%?
Well, he bought you,
Just a one-time fee, 5% would be good for me.
He
at
ended
least
off
give you a
pretty good, yeah.
and they
Give you
bought
a
you
buy
guys.
game.
And Arkansas bought you guys.
Yeah, he did that for us. He bought us last
That's
year,
right.
and we really needed that at the time. I called him and said,
Yep.
look. And after the game, he said at halftime, because I think we were up 3 at halftime. He said, I was kicking myself at halftime for doing that for you, but they ended up beating us pretty bad.
You alluded to it there, kind of the thing that a lot of fans don't realize. Like we use the term buy games and throw them out there, but can you explain for fans like how it's not just like an idea, like the critical nature of these games to funding the Oakland University athletic department in your whole program? Because like I'm a UConn guy, it doesn't come up for us, right? We're the team on the other side. On your side, it it's everything. I get the vibe.
Well, even more now because in revenue sharing and paying players, that's how I'm got to be able to fund my players, right? So next year we're going to play 12 non-league games, and I'm going to try and get 10 buy games, which is unprecedented because if I can get 90,000 average of 90,000 a game, that's $900,000. The school's going to let me take half of that. And now I've got $500,000 that I can go spend on purchasing players because that's
Yeah,
what we do now. We purchase players.
I
Rocco,
think
you'll have to get on that. That's the Dan Moncton, the old Dan Monson rather, as
That's
Long
right.
Beach
yeah,
State vibe.
it
Well,
beach.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, Greg knows this. I'm on the inside of scheduling. We talk about this every single day at all levels, and I think the big theme this particular year that I've seen more than even last year is the teams that used to get like Oakland's always been a team. Greg, you've been a pioneer kind of in this, like almost like a not as extreme as Texas Southern, but like close. You've had years where you got bought 8, 9, 10 times. And this year, the teams that only used to get bought twice are trying to get bought 4 times. Teams that used to never get bought need to get bought 2 or 3. Like, I don't want to call out specific teams, but teams with very healthy budgets. I have a couple Mountain West teams where I live trying to get bought. They're like the sixth or seventh best league.
Well,
And so everywhere you look, the amount of times you're getting bought keeps going up. And Greg, maybe you want to
I
add
was
to
just
that.
say because it's part of the revenue share. It's part of
Yeah.
being, we all are looking at how are we going to pay the players. Players are getting paid now, and so how are you going to do that? And that's a stream that's out there that has been untapped, and it worries me because everybody else is going to start doing it. And I used to really like when I said we chartered to all those schools in the Summit League, we were revolutionary at that. No mid-major did that. But the way I paid for it is I went to my bosses and told them, look, what an advantage it would be. Like we play Valpo on Thursday, and on Saturday we play Western Illinois. Or we play South Dakota State on Thursday, and on Saturday we play North Dakota State. What an
Yeah,
advantage would it be is that if the games ends at 9 o'clock on Thursday night, if we're in our hotel room in Fargo by midnight, where everybody else is on a bus for 5 hours and they get in at 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And my boss bought it and said, go ahead and do it. And I went and we played buy games. And I remember one year the bill was $188,000. And this is before anybody thought about chartering. And the coaches in that league knew we had a tremendous advantage because we chartered. But I also went through non-league years where we were 3-8, where most coaches are more worried about being 8-3 so that they don't get fired. And I've told many coaches the reality of it is you're not going to get fired over your 3-8 non-league schedule. They'll
right.
use that when they get rid of you that you had this record. But the bottom line is you win your league and you will go to the NCAA tournament, you're not going to get fired. So don't worry about your non-league schedule. It's just
That yeah.
Absolutely. I actually just wanted to call out 2013. I mean, there's several examples, but 2013 cracks me up a little bit because between November 11th and December 1st, at least. You went from Lafayette, Louisiana to Boise, Idaho to Pittsburgh. You went to Texas Southern and won. And then you went up to Michigan State to play your buddy Tom Izzo. Then you went to Tennessee. Then you went to Western Michigan. So it was like multiple back and forths and crisscrossing. I think my favorite part, though, is you played three Summit League games and then played Alabama on the road in between Omaha and South Dakota State.
Needed the money.
You needed the
Yeah.
money.
Alabama
You
was
do
giving
what
me
you got to
90
do.
grand.
Yep.
90 grand. I had to do it. So,
Yeah.
and you look back, and it's why I've never worried about wins, when they say you got this many wins. I remind people I got a lot of losses, and we've played 200 bye games in the last 25 years. And if we had only played 10, there's another 190 games that would have played against our own level. And we usually win at about 65% when we play our own level. So would have been a hell of a lot more wins, but would it really have been? Because could we have built the program we built without that money? And I don't think we could have.
Yeah.
I agree.
One
and
of
I
the
think
people who's been really helpful, you alluded to earlier, your close friend John Calipari, but my interpretation, your closest friend in coaching, maybe in the world, is Tom Izzo. And if you can talk a little about the job he's done in terms of giving you guys like a home and home, and I'm sure that revenue wise was huge getting to play in Detroit, even though it's going to be all state fans, but for Tom to give you that when a lot of coaches at his level would not have been willing to do that.
No, absolutely unquestionable. But I will tell you this: we draw too. We'll have 5 to 7,000 at that game at Little Caesars, but they'll have 12,000, right? So it's our home game. We run on the court and get booed. But that's just part of it. It's really a cool atmosphere. We've done it down through the years at the Palace of Auburn Hills before we moved it to Little Caesars. The largest crowd in the Palace history was Oakland, Michigan State, the year they were ranked #1 in the country, and they beat us in overtime.
I remember that
Had
game.
that great guard Kay Felder, and the ball rolled around the rim, didn't go in, and then Kay fouled out. But there were 21,000 people at that game. That was more than the NBA games, because in the NBA they're set up. They have the seat. We could stuff seats in to where they'd normally not have seats. But Tom has really, really been a friend of mine. Forget the personal friendship, but a friend to Oakland. And we opened the arena. Michigan State opened it in 2000 or 99 or whenever that was. They haven't come back. Now it's the home game is at Pistons play, but we play every year. Our players know it. It helps us in recruiting. It helps us financially. It helps us, for one night every year, we are front and center with the media in the state of Michigan. It's been great. And I will say this, I go to my friends in this business for games all the time. Many of them don't want to play, but when I'm stuck, like Cal played me last year, Bill Self, he called me and said, "Hey, yeah, we're full, but I think I can get out of this game and get you in." And he did, because the old guard, we take care of each other, and I'm very fortunate to have been around long enough to know the old guard, and they've been very kind to me.
That's interesting to hear you tell those stories. I mean, I know Michigan State has done that. I think Oklahoma State came and played on the blacktop a year or two ago. Following the under the radar schools like we do, it just seems like, in addition to not having the resources that the powers have, they're at a circumstantial disadvantage when it comes to how their schedule and their season plays out. Essentially, there are really good teams that are top 40 caliber teams that play outside of the powers and at under the radars, but you have 6 weeks at the beginning of the year to get the kind of wins that would jump out at the committee and get them to consider a team like that, and they have to get them under unfavorable circumstances, and they have to be good right away. If you're looking at getting inside the bubble and getting selected as an at-large, which can be done, happens all the time. You mentioned the Horizon League has sent multiple teams. Murray State's been inside the bubble. I mean, it can be done, but it's just so much harder than a team from a multi-bid league or a power league that kind of has the luxury of being able to improve as the year goes on. So it's already hard enough. And then you look at the basketball travelers and you look at programs that are trying to schedule teams. I think Stephen F. Austin posted an ad one year that basically said, we'll go anywhere and play for nothing. And they still couldn't get a team to play them.
Well, I would say this. There are coaches out there and the newer generation of coaches, and I'm not criticizing them.
I will.
I'm not. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing them. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you there is this belief that scheduling has become more important than anything to them. That you'll call them and say, hey, we want this game, and they will dissect you and go through your roster and your recruits, and they'll say, well, yeah, maybe we'll play. And then 3 weeks later, if they tell you no, because they think that if there's any chance you can go there and win, they won't play. And there's a lot of rhetoric out there, and they hide behind that rhetoric. I'm not going to do it because it would be against the code of coaching. But there was a coach 2 weeks ago who said on Twitter, we'll play anybody anywhere. We're not afraid of the smoke. We know that to get the right seed in the NCAA tournament, we've got to play the schedule. We've got to do that. And I could play you a voicemail from that school saying, no, we can't play you guys. So everybody talks it, but very few do it. And that's when I talk about the old guard. I think the people like an Izzo, a Calipari, a Self, like Bruce Pearl. Bruce and I kind of came up together when Oakland was Division II. He was at Southern Indiana. We played each other a few times in the NCAA tournament and that. And so we've known each other very closely for a long time. And when he was at Tennessee, I needed a game. And I called him and he said, I'll give you a 2-for-1. And we went there and we won. And then that was the year that all the stuff went down. So he wasn't there the next year. And the following year, Tennessee came to Oakland and we won that one too. And he still laughs at me about it. He goes, I did you a favor and look what you did, to me. And, but if I called Bruce and said, we need to play, he'd play us.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't look at and say, oh, you could beat us. No, he would play us because like I said, that generation of coaches just takes care of each other. Now, I can also, a younger coach might say, well, yeah, they're making $8 million a year and they're set in their ways, and a loss to Oakland isn't going to cost them their job. And maybe they have something with that.
Yeah, I can understand them feeling that way, but Bruce Pearl is another example. When he was at Tennessee, he played Chattanooga. I want to say he played East Tennessee State. He got some of those going, and he played them on equal terms. At Auburn, he's gone to UAB. He's played teams from around the state. So, granted, there's only so much room on the out-of-conference schedule, but he's you talked about how he scheduled you guys. He's played those kinds of teams, and he hasn't won them all, and he's doing fine.
Yeah, I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, I think he's doing okay.
Coach, if I can jump in here, a question about, you talked a little bit earlier about the way the game has changed, but especially these last few seasons. I actually am on a radio show that has nothing to do with college basketball at all every other week, but we always have a few minutes to talk a little college basketball. And the host of that show, who doesn't really follow the game at all, asked me the other day on the air, so have there been any notable transfers among teams this year in the offseason? And I kind of had to laugh at that question. The way I explained it, I said it's almost like a Wild West type of thing right now. And would you kind of agree with that, in the way that that it's just completely become almost a free-for-all with transfers? and NIL money and versus the old days of recruiting a kid and having him for 4 years?
Well, I would have answered that question. Are there any notable players that stayed?
Pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
It started Purdue with Brandon Smith, right? I think he got offered 4 million somewhere and he didn't go. He stayed for 2 million. I mean, um, yeah, it's so you can be the old guy that yells at the clouds, and you can, fight the change, and you're not going to win, you know. And I've always tried to live by the, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? And I don't need to be right. I just want to be happy. I want to coach my team. I want players to love playing at Oakland. And if they're going to chase money and chase other things, I'll help them do that. And we're recruiting kids now, telling them, come here. Trey Townsend was player of the year in the Horizon League, and he got $800,000 to go to Arizona.
Yeah.
My post player last year got 750,000. I can't pay that kind of money. I try and explain to them why it's false gold and why it's not life-changing money, but what we can do here for you is life-changing. But I'm not winning those battles. And so we help them and we tell them, this is a 1-year deal. Come here and do the best you can. And if you need to leave and want to chase it, we'll help you chase it. So I explain it this way when I speak, and I think it's a pretty good metaphor. 20 years ago, if somebody asked me, or 20 years ago, if I ask a player to jump, they'd say, how high, right? When you guys were kids and the coach told you to jump, you'd say, how high? 10 years ago or so, when I asked them to jump, they'd say, well, okay, but why? Why do I need to jump, right? I'll do it, but just explain it to me, right? Today, if I ask a kid to jump, they say, sure, I'll do it, but how much are you going to pay me to do it? Right? And if I make it 10 more years, I think they're going to go, coach, I'd love to jump, but that ain't in my contract. So I just think that really explains how it's changed. And, I blame the NCAA, and I'm a big proponent of the NCAA. I think it's very much needed. I think we need that organization. I think we need antitrust laws. I think we need all that kind of stuff. But I blame us because when I had Kay Felder, he was one of the best point guards in the country, a third team All-American at Oakland. Think about that, a third team AP All-American. That you have to really be good to do that.
Yeah.
And he's the best point guard in college basketball in my mind. Why couldn't he go run a point guard basketball camp? Why wouldn't they let him monetize that in the summer? Every kid in Michigan would have come to that camp. He could have made 50 grand at the camp. Sell a K Felder jersey and give him a percentage of it. Why didn't we do those things?
Yeah.
And and we made a mistake there. And once the toothpaste came out of the tube, man, you're not putting it back in, right? So I have no idea how you're going to fix it.
I got to follow up with another question there because you mentioned Kay Felder and his last game with you guys, the end of the 2016 season, was a championship game of a tournament that is maybe near and dear to our hearts here, but probably nobody else in the world ever heard of it. The Vegas 16 tournament, where you guys lost the championship game there to Old Dominion. Any thoughts on that tournament? Because that was one of the. It's always become almost funny here. Just that one turn, they lasted 1 year and disappeared off the face of the planet.
We watched
We watched it.
Yeah.
It was the single best postseason tournament other than the NCAA that we've ever played in. And I'll tell you why. All the other tournaments are really, really, really difficult to play in. The NIT,
Yes.
Joe Dwyer is a dear friend of mine, and what he did with his tournament, the College Insider tournament,
We loved that one too. Sorry to cut you off, but we loved that one too.
They did a wonderful job, and they gave the mid-majors a chance to play in a tournament, and I love him for it and everything. But when you lose in your conference tournament, when your whole year was based, and when you're a mid-major, it doesn't matter what you do until those 3 games in March or those 2 games in March. Doesn't matter. The whole world is focused on getting your team ready to play in that and then playing for it. With this idea of going to the pot of gold, the Holy Grail, the NCAA tournament. So you lose that game, and 3 days later, you're expected to go play in the NIT or you can't do it. The kids don't want to do it. If they do want to do it, they can't get themselves up. You've got 1 or 2 days to prepare, and it's usually really bad basketball. The Vegas 16, which really turned out to be the Vegas 8,
Yeah.
they waited 3 weeks to play it. And we took a week off. And then by the time the kids are back, the sting is gone. They want to play. And we prepped and had great practices. And we went to Vegas. Everybody was contained in one of the casinos. Can't remember which one it was, but we played it at a casino, and it was fierce competition, and it was a really, really, really good tournament. And we won a game in the NIT. We went to Clemson and won it in the NIT, and trust me, Clemson didn't want to play that night. They did not want to play that night. It's just that first game of the postseason when it's not the NCAA. It's so close to the loss, it's hard to get your team to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for all that your career, you've been on both sides of this. You mentioned that when you have to recover from the heartbreak. I wanted to real quickly ask you about your very first Division One men's basketball tournament team, that '05 Oakland team, and there's been a lot of stories like this. You guys did the magic carpet ride. That team on March 4th, 2005 was 9-18. They had finished tied for fifth in the mid-con, and you had to go play it in Tulsa, knowing that Oral Roberts was probably there at the end. And you guys win 3 games in 3 days to make the NCAA tournament for the first time, and all of them nail biters. What was that experience like, just going through that? And you had come up with Oakland, brought this school from Division II, and you talked about the climb in the first year you can't get there, and then you get there with a team that I don't think most of you expected to get there.
No, we were just trying to get the year over with.
Yeah.
Uh, we went to this matchup zone that I play today, and we had a pro on the team, and we had another kid that was a Big Ten level player, which meant we should have been better than we were during the year. But we weren't real talented deep wise. We were really young, and we had a couple freshmen that really played a bunch, and we had an issue happened. A bad thing happened within the team. A player ended up being go off the roster, and we decided to go to the zone and slow it down and hold the ball and play for possession by possession. And all of a sudden, we became a good team. We were a really good team. Those 3 days were not a fluke. The coaching was so bad that he didn't figure out how to do it until the last 3 games. But you talk about wins and remembering wins. Scott Sutton, that was the coach at Oral Roberts, and that probably, I would bet he still wakes up at night because how we won that game. I mean, it's a Hollywood movie. I had a kid, Pierre Dukes, and he had played his freshman year, and he came in after his freshman year, and he said, "I don't want to play anymore, coach. I'm done." And so school starts the next year, and I go, "Pierre, I need somebody that loves basketball, that just be a practice player. I'll give you a scholarship to just come on the team and practice. You don't have to dress. You don't have to play in the games." He didn't want the pressure of it. It just wasn't and so he does. And he starts playing pretty good in practice, and around Christmas time or whenever it was, I'd have to go back and look. But you know what? Hey, why don't you dress for the games? All the pressure's off you. Nobody in your hometown thinks you're playing it, and so he does. And as the season, and then when that kid got thrown off the team, and now he's got minutes that he can play. And I went to him and said, "Pierre, I'll play if you want to play. If you still don't want to play," no, he goes, "No, coach, I'll try playing." Well, we had led the whole Oral Roberts game. We led the whole game. And Raul Marshall, who was an NBA player for us, slips on the logo, dribbling the shot clock out. He slips on the logo and falls down. And Oral Roberts picks the ball up and goes down, scores, and goes on a 6-0 run or something like that to take the lead with no time, left. And just a few, 15 seconds, 12 seconds. And we get the basketball and we bring it down. And this pro, Raul Marshall, who played in the NBA 3 years and in Europe another 10, Oral Roberts doubles him and he throws it to Pierre Dukes. And Pierre catches it and shoots it with 1 second to go and makes it. And Oakland, with the worst record in the history of any team going to the NCAA tournament, goes to the NCAA tournament. That night, I think I was on 500 radio shows all over the world. Yeah. We land in Detroit the next day, and a team's walking, and we're walking to go to we didn't even have a bus. That's how bad it was back then. We had driven cars. We were walking to cars. Wow. People were going to get in their cars and drive back to the campus. And we see this big commotion going on. There's barracks or barricades up and everything. And there's got to be 50 people with TV cameras and everything. And I said to my assistant, was walking, oh, Jesus, what happened? And it was all for us.
Wow. We
were all sitting there waiting to talk to people from all over. And we had never thought that could happen. We had never experienced anything like that. And I'm telling you, it was one of the craziest 10 days I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah. And it didn't end with that. You won that opening round game in Dayton after that. So, man, what a ride. And one of the great radio calls of all time, I'm sure you've heard it. I don't know if it was a student report. That guy deserves some sort of Emmy for that. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. But
yeah,
it's you think back to that and where we started, and then walking off the floor after the Kentucky game. It's almost like it's not real. It's almost like if Hollywood did a movie of it, you would think it was all fake. You just wouldn't think it really happened. So
it's amazing.
Go ahead, Rocco. I was just going to ask, this is a little off the beaten path, but one of my favorite things about your program, why are the last name under the number? I know that's a weird question. It's one of my favorite identifying things in college basketball. I know I'm watching an Oakland game, and that's why when Jack Golke's going nuts 2 years ago, it's like an out-of-body experience for me, because I'm supposed to be one of the 5 weirdos who's not in Michigan, who's watching Oakland because I love your style and your personality. Why are the names under the number? I'm just curious. I think it's great.
Well, because exactly of what you just said. And if you look at from 10,000 feet at our program, you'll see other things like the black floor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I tried to do when we put the black floor in was I wanted to put a fence around the student section, the ones chain link fence around the student section. And I wanted the nets. We were going to paint the nets silver. Like we're out on the playground, right? You got a black top, you got the chain link fence, but the NCAA won't. You have to have white nets. We went all the way up to see if we could do that.
Don't think I knew that rule. Wow,
who knew that, right?
Yeah.
And my bosses were against the chain link fence. They just, But I wanted to do something to differentiate us because I have been fighting a battle for 30 years, not the first 10 years or so, but since we went to Division I, the Michigan State battle, right? Mm-hmm. Everything. I mean, I had a son that was a really good player. When he was young, I came home one night from a game and I walk in and I can hear him up in his bedroom shooting a basketball saying, Drew Neitzel for 2. And I'm like, Drew Neitzel, Michigan State. You're an Oakland fan. I had been battling that Michigan State thing. So anything that we could do to differentiate ourselves. And I thought about that, many, many years ago. We put you know what, we're going to put our name under, because Marquette had a jersey when I was playing in the 70s that's their name was under, and it's the top was out. It was, it was you did they weren't tucked in, and it was designed that way. And the NCAA came in and said that you can't do that. But I liked that name under, and I wanted people to know that's Oakland University. They got their names under. The NBA does it every once in a while for their All-Star game, and a lot of women's teams have gone to it because of, they have long hair, so they want to be able to see their names. But, we've done it, as you said, we've done it for 40 years. It's just something that differentiated us, but now it's who we are. It's part of our culture.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask Greg part of what Zach was saying, your personality, I think you could win 2,700 games, but to me, I think your personality is why so many of the college basketball community are drawn to you and want to, just hear what you have to say and learn from you. Obviously, your coaching's great. For the young coaches out there who I talk to a lot, and you and I have to deal with a lot of them in scheduling. Um, what would you tell them? Because probably 90% of them, not all of them, there are some pretty fun personalities too, but maybe 80% of them are concerned. They're nervous. They don't know how long they're going to be there. They could be ran out in 2 or 3 years. What would your advice be to them?
You're not going to stop that, right? You just be who you are.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's 368, 66, who knows how many exactly. It was 364 last year, but I think a couple more Division I schools, right? There's only 366 of us, and you've got one of those 366 jobs. And trust me, if I walked out the door tomorrow, there'd be 300 people that would apply for that job, and there'd be another 3,000 that would want it, but would think they couldn't get it, right?
Yeah.
And no matter who you are, when you walk out of that door, somebody's going to want that job, and somebody's going to take that job. And my biggest advice to them would be, Babe Ruth's been dead for almost 100 years, 75 years, and they still play Major League Baseball, right? And you just got to understand how fortunate you are to have your job and enjoy it. And because however you handle your job, that's what radiates off you. That's what your players take from it. That's what the media takes from it. That's what your fans take from it. And that is what the job is. And what I mean by that is, if you allow pressure to overtake you and you become that guy, everybody's going to know it. And that's how your program's going to become. And just, you're lucky to have the job. It's not your given right to have it. And you're just holding that position right now. I've held the Oakland position for 42 years, but 40 years from now, nobody's going to remember my name.
I think they will.
My players have never seen Michael Jordan play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've never seen Michael Jordan play.
Well, you mentioned your personality and how it radiates and how you don't want to put off stress. I have to ask about the Christmas sweaters. I just have to. It's I mean, last year was the best as part of your long-term operation to get Tom to come back to the arena. If you could get him to wear that, he can come to the arena as far as I'm concerned. It's my favorite thing every year is the ugly Christmas sweater. I mean, the moose head one is my personal favorite.
Yeah.
How long is the planning? Is this you? Is there somebody else? Everything. You can go 10 hours. I want all the details.
So the Moosehead one was, I went to one of the TV stations here in Detroit that year to do a Sunday night. They do the 30-minute show of like Sports Center or Sports Works, or all different cities have different ones. And the guy that was the producer had ordered this Christmas sweater, and it was sitting on his desk, and it was the one with the moose. And I looked at it and I said, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to wear that in a game. He goes, you would never wear that in a game. I go, the hell I wouldn't. He goes, "Take it." And now I was stuck, right? So I wore that one. The Christmas present one was the one that I think No, the Moosehead one's the one that they on Pardon the Interruption. No, not Pardon what was Around the Horn. They did the last segment was should I be banned from coaching for um
My favorite
and
was you just looked so content on this on the sidelines. You were like perfectly at peace. Like, yep, I'm just wearing
I
this one.
can I use the word ass on here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so the the game's about to start, and the officials come over to shake my hand. And he comes over and he's looking at me. I go, "Don't look at me like that." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "You just want to touch my ass, don't you?" That's what was sticking out the back. And he was in shock. He couldn't believe I said that to him. And it was the most I should have said that to him, but um, yeah, that was crazy. And then people were clamoring for it. So we play Michigan State around Christmas every year, and I said to Izzo, we should do this together. And he was like, no. I finally got him to agree to do it, and he bought this sweater and showed up with his elf on his sweater, right? The first time. And 7-8 minutes into the game, he gets a technical foul. And now the media is calling him the angry elf. He didn't like that. He didn't like that a whole lot. So I told him this year, let me handle it. I'll get us. Nobody's ever worn the same one. So I'll get two of the same. And it went over pretty good. So I think next year it's on him. He's going to be the one to pick out the sweaters next year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This might, I've been trying to think of the best way to ask this. What I'm getting at is, does coaching in college or college sports still feel like college sports to you with all of the changes? Because it is sort of, I mean, God, as maddening as it can be sometimes, it can be unbelievably rewarding. The relationships with the players, the relationships with the support staff, the idea of kind of going through that season together and everything that happens. It seems to me in my little puppet world that it doesn't feel quite like it used to. I was just wondering, does it still feel like college basketball to you? That's a horrible way to ask that, but
No,
you know what I'm getting at? Yeah.
I think it's a tremendous question. And I will answer it this way. My roster this year is getting paid. Our roster substantially. I've got not like the big boys, but for a mid-major program, I was able to raise a bunch of money, and I gave it to the players to get them.
Mhm.
And I was very concerned. You got players making more than our swim coach, who's won 50 championships, making more than my assistant coaches, right? And I was very, very concerned on how that dynamic was going to be in the locker room, how was I going to handle it when a kid's screwing up? Am I going to go, I'm paying you now, how was I going to handle it? And we ended summer practice today, and I will tell you, this was one of the best summer practices I've ever been a part of. The 14 kids that I have are connected. They want to be coached. I coached them hard. They played hard. I had no issues. The players, and I gotta assume they know who's making what and who isn't making what. And I mean, I'm assuming that because I'm not talking about it. It's been fantastic. It's been absolutely one of the best summers I've ever been involved in coaching. And now ask me that after we lose a few. We opened
Yeah.
Michigan, Purdue, Houston. Number 1, number 2, and number 8. So ask me that ask me how I feel after those 3 games. Right now, I mean, it was fantastic. They wanted to be coached. And we talked about that before the season started, before the summer started. We talked about, coachability. Do you want to be coached? We're going to coach you hard. Hold each other accountable. All the things that we used to say, we decided to roll all that out and see how it went. Because your question was a concern, and I haven't been on the road yet to see many coaches. So I was going to ask them those same questions. Did they feel that way after their summer? But I'm walking away from our summer. I think we can be really good. I'm really excited, and I would love coaching this group of kids.
That's great.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, you've been, I'm not trying to shuffle you off. I want you to coach forever, but like, y- you had the high of highs, although it was tough for you personally 2 years ago. You've won a million games. Like, what is the drive to keep doing this? Is this something, I mean, you can do it as long as you want. Oakland will let you do it as long as you want. Do you have like a idea in mind of how long to do this, or are you just, as long as you love it, you're gonna keep doing it?
I've got 4 years left on my contract, and if we win the championship this year, I'll go in and ask for two more, or something like that. I want to be the deciding factor, but I'm not going to be the guy that hangs around that everybody's saying, he's done and all that. I'm not going to be that guy. The day I don't want to do it anymore is the day I will stop. And I I've had no inclinations to that yet. Um, every time a new rules pass and all these things pass, it makes you wonder, it makes you wonder where we're going and do you really want to be a part of it? And then I go have a summer like this and I'm thinking, man, my biggest concern right now is can I raise the money to be able to get good players next year? That's
Yeah.
The kids have been great. They want to be coached. They've been great. Um, but I don't want to lose because my payroll's, $30,000 and everybody in the leagues is 3 million. I don't want to lose because of that. Um, so that will, if anything drives me out, it'll be losing that way.
Yeah, Greg, do you think it's like we're at a point now where we should basically just, even at a conference level, so we'll just take the Horizon League. Should we start viewing them as, people following and covering the sport, almost like we do the professional leagues? Obviously, the money's not the same, but at the same time, and you can't cut a guy halfway through the year, and you can't trade for a guy halfway through the year. But outside of that, once you make all these decisions in the spring about your roster, maybe bring in a guy late in the summer, that's it. You're off to the races. However much you had, that's what you got. Should we start viewing it that way? Like these are assets and is that a good mentality you think for the
It's
community?
No, it's not a good mentality, but it's the route we're going down. And
Yeah.
I don't want that route. And again, I'll fight that, but I'll accept whatever comes my way
Yeah.
because I want to do this. I want to coach. So I'm gonna be accepting, but I'm gonna fight it because I don't want it to be professional sports. And
Yeah.
the thing I've always said over the last 10 years when all this was trending was Oakland fans are fans of Oakland,
Yeah.
right? Michigan fans are fans of the big house, of Michigan, of the history,
Hmm.
right? And they're not, they're fans of watching a kid come in as a freshman and go from this boy to a man. And I'm a fan of a young man growing up and learning, and maybe we even lose because he's too young, but he goes into life to become a professional at whatever he's going to be because only 1% of our players across the board play in the NBA.
Right.
So I don't want it to become professional sports. I want a sense of amateurism. Now, the other side of it, people are going, coaches are making this millions of dollars. You don't want the players to make it. And that's not where I'm at all. I want it to stay. I want Michigan fans to love Michigan. I want Michigan State fans to hate Michigan and love Michigan State. I want Alabama to hate LSU. It is, you're with all the conference changes and losing the rivalries and that, we're giving away history. I'm a little partial to history. I think history's cool,
It is.
Yeah. Yes. We're with you.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
100%.
I don't want what you did 2 years ago to be something we look back in 5 years and be like, oh, remember when a team like that could do that? And I think there were
Oh,
some nerves over this last tournament where like There were a couple of Mountain West teams that made a little noise, and that was it. And my fear is that it's so hard now because if you get, and what I loved about your team 2 years ago, Jack Olke was playing D2. Like you went and found a kid at D2 that could play at this level and have the night of his life. I mean, he wasn't that all year, and then he was very much, that and getting 7,000 sponsorships. It was a cool story, but are you worried that it's just almost not impossible, but it's going to be hard for a mid-major to really kind of break through now because you can't retain your roster.
Well, yes, and we got old and we beat young, and old
Yeah.
always beats young. Well, now everybody's old, right?
Yeah.
Except the elite freshmen. Those guys aren't playing. Why? Because Arizona didn't have to bring a 5-star freshman in and watch him grow. They got Trey Townsend from Oakland, who had just got, had the year of his career, and now they got him. And so they stayed old instead of going through the process of getting old. And usually the mid-major with the upset, you look back at Loyola a few years ago, they had old guys other than that freshman center, right?
Yeah.
You look at George Mason when Larinaga was there, and those teams that do are old guys that have played together a long time, and that's just not going to happen. Last year I had 11 new players. This year I had 10 new players. Next year I'll probably have 10 new players. It's going to be hard, really hard to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the St. Peter's teams just a few years ago,
Right.
all super old. I don't even think they could do that now.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was something, obviously there's a lot of things I love about college sports and college basketball, but there was something, I don't know if romantic's the right word, but I'm glad that I was able to be around it when you could go through that process and you could grow up and you went through the growing pains of having a young team and saw it develop and accomplish things like that. It was awesome.
And the fans love that.
Yeah.
More than anything, I'm hearing from our fans, they don't want to donate money to players that are coming and going.
Right.
They would love for a kid that came here as a freshman and now he's in his senior year. Yeah, let's pay that kid because he was loyal and stayed.
Yeah.
But they don't want this bam, 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 you're moving around. And I have to believe everywhere it's like that. I have to believe somebody said something to me about losing players, and my answer was Duke lost 7 players.
Mm-hmm.
Duke, when I was growing up, I would have paid Duke to be on their team.
Yeah.
Duke lost 7 players. If you're a Duke and you're not happy, I mean, what's happened to the game?
Right. And I know like Florida Atlantic and Miami very recently, coming off of Final Four years, had roster overhauls. And it's just one of those things. It's almost like a fantasy sports exercise now in the off season, putting these rosters together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want a dynasty fantasy team. I don't want the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, I think we're just about out of time here, but I do want to thank you for joining us here. And I think it's been great. Greg Kampe, 715 career wins, the all-time Horizon League leader in wins as a head coach.
Greg and I have combined for 715 wins.
You mentioned trying to go to Duke. I do want to congratulate also. You did go to Bowling Green, and they're inducting you into their Hall of Fame, I believe, coming up in October. So congratulations on that, and several other Michigan Hall of Fames that you're already in. So congrats, Coach. And once again, thanks for joining us. Any other final thoughts from you?
Oh, this was my pleasure. Anytime you want to do this, I love talking basketball. I love seeing you guys, and then those eyes are, I'm mesmerized by those eyes.
Oh,
it scares me. Trust me.
It's sad that we're used to it. That's we should get help.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
All right. On behalf of Oakland head coach Greg Kampe, Zach Singer, Rocco Miller of Bracteer.org, David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us again, everybody. We'll be back with more Hoops HD report coming up in a couple weeks here.